They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.
What up? Welcome back to the Necro Zoo. I am Bones. And in this one, let's go ahead and add one more figure to my McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. Now this time it is going to be Wonder Woman from the Endless Winter Wave. Now I did get sidetracked a little bit. I did do the Blackest Night Atrocitus wave, and I also got sidetracked by Necron. But I was doing all these figures and then repainting them to give a little touch of customization to them and show them off to you guys. But now we're back on track, and I'm going to continue with the Endless Winter. I still have to do the Batman, and I'm also going to do Aquaman to finish out the wave. And then of course we will have the Frost King to look at. A lot of different stuff I've heard about this Wonder Woman. I did hear some people saying that this is their least favorite, but I did want to check her out for myself. She does look pretty chilly in the packaging, but let's go ahead and take a closer look at her. But first, she does come with your standard black DC Multiverse stand. Not really needed, but sometimes useful. She also comes with a data file card. On the front, you do have some figure photography. Now, looking at this image, it is very different than the figure that we actually have. This one just has like a headband, headdress, and this one has more like the wings on the side. This one has like shoulder guards, a shield, and like a battle axe, it looks like. Plus, this one has a little bit shinier gold, like on her costume, and also some shinier red. So I don't know if this is going to be an alternate version of this Wonder Woman, or if this was just rendering, or maybe it was prototype, but it is not the exact image of this figure. Anyways, on the back you do have some information. And this is the third time this has happened to me. I did get 2 cards in the same pack, so always appreciated. We'll add this to the collection. Now she does come with an accessory, which is her sword. We will be adding some paint apps to this one to pretty it up a little bit, but pretty nice sword. And then she also comes with the body of the Frost King. A lot of nice sculpt work in this one. Love the belt with like a horned bear or something like that. Pretty interesting. We'll hold on to this. But let's go ahead and take a closer look at her. Now, you could tell right away just by looking at her that she's missing a ton of paint. Plus, the yellow that they used on her is a pretty dull yellow. And she's missing a ton of silver highlights. Now, she does have some silver on her brooch that's holding on her like fur cape. But all in all, first impressions, I do like her. I love her face sculpt. Very realistic looking face sculpt. And actually pretty good looking face sculpt as well. She looks pretty hot in this winter getup. But love her armor, love her costume. She does have the traditional Wonder Woman colors, even though she doesn't look the same. Pretty nice that they added the lasso of truth, even though it is not detachable. It is stuck on there, but pretty happy with her. Love her ponytail, braided ponytail. Pretty militaristic kind of look to her. Ready for war. But she is pretty beautiful, so love that. Let's take a look at the head sculpt. Like I said, very realistic head sculpt. I mean, it just looks like a person more than like a comic book character. Now her hair is missing a lot of tone, like highlights. And the gold that they used is pretty dull, more like a yellow than really a gold. And I do like her headdress, even though it is not like the one on the card, but this one looks pretty cool as well with that like wing motif. Now let's check out her articulation. She could look down slightly, but she cannot look up at all due to her hair, the fur shawl that she has on. But we'll be taking a look at modding that to get some more range out of there. But all in all, I do like the head sculpt. Really good looking head sculpt. I actually have to say this might be my favorite Wonder Woman head sculpt. Very, very beautiful head sculpt. Now she can look right to left, and you can still tilt her head for some attitude, but very restricted head movement. Now taking a look at her chest, she has that awesome Wonder Woman eagle across her chest, her armor going down into like a skirt type of uniform. Pretty nice. Let's take a look at the waist movement. Now, she's really stiff. She has very little side to side. She does have like a lower waist rotation, but it's hidden underneath all this gear. Now, if you look at her from the side, she has like this part like on her back that if you try and twist her, it comes apart very easily. And I don't think that necessarily is supposed to be like that. So I will be gluing that together so that when you do twist her, it doesn't like come apart there at that seam. Now, all of this causes a lot of restriction in her waist. She cannot really crunch forward except for like at her hips. And then she can lean back the same, just at her hips, not really, using her waist articulation. So it's really hard to pose her because of this. But I mean, armored up Wonder Woman's not really going to be doing a lot of gymnastic poses and stuff like that. So no big deal. You can lift up one of her arms. Theoretically, you could do the other one, but it's blocked by this shawl, by this fur, to get her in a T-pose. And then you could lift her arms up. Kind of like that. Let's take a look at her shoulder. There is a butterfly joint. You could see it on this side. I typically do the left side, but now I'll do the right. She does have a butterfly bushing in there. You got up and down, front to back. Bicep swivel. Pretty nice double jointed elbows. And then moving from her shoulder down into her forearm guards, her gloves. Pretty nice sculpt work there. She is missing the silver from that are like for her metallic forearm guards, and then these are just like gloves that are slipped over because you can see the fur ring around there. So we'll be looking at repainting all of that. Let's take a look at the thigh swivel. Very minimal thigh swivel. You could hear it there, but it's very slight. Now she can kick up and she can kick back, but it's still restricted because of all the gear she has on, her whole uniform. She does have that hip rotation, double jointed knees. Straighten her back out. If you go down, you have going up is a little bit restricted because of the guard she has, but you can point her ankle down, right to left, rocker, and then toe articulation. Now that's another thing before we go. Let's look at the legs. She's missing a lot of paint on her boots, which should have a lot of gold detail. But let's take a look at her from the bottom. No tread, no identifying marks. Going up the back now. This is getting really bunched up. She has her lasso of truth there. She has like a skirt covering her bum. Now if you lift this up, you can see Themyscira's greatest secret, which is her big booty. It's under there. You can kind of see it if you just look at like even her skirt covering. You could kind of see her butt sticking out from there. And then going up the back, she does have some cool straps. And then of course she has her sheath for her sword, which we'll have to repaint as well. But it does have a plug. Stick it back in there. And then you have this cool like fur shawl. I guess it's really cold for her out there in the endless winter. All in all, she's a nice looking Wonder Woman, but she is designated to the endless winter. Like, since that is her, that's the source material where she comes from. She looks pretty good coming off of that source material. Now, let's go ahead and do some changes. First, I did mod the head. Popped off the head and then bored out the hole. I did shave off some hair from the back, and now she can look up a lot more than before. And you can actually swivel her head with a little bit more freedom. She gets more range in her head, so that's really good. I added some paint highlights to her hair. Now her braid kind of gets in the way a lot. You can actually just put it behind her, or you could push it down and use her arm to like hold it in place. But I do like the braid. It's just that it doesn't really stick flush to her body, so sometimes it's kind of in the way a little bit. Now I did start at the head adding some more higher gold, like a more glossier, shinier yellow gold, which really brings out the figure. Looks really awesome. I added a little bit of red actually to her lips because they were like really dark red, and I just thought she needed a little bit of lighter red on her lips so they could pop. Then we did her whole armor with that yellow gold all the way throughout her uniform down to her boots, the knee pads, the boots. Everything got that gold paint. Even the lasso of truth got hit with that gold paint. Then on her arms, we did do the silver for her gauntlets. And then we did paint the fur around the gloves. We also painted the fur around the boots and behind the boots. A lot of cool details that were just glossed over. And then the ring around her skirt also has fur on it. So a lot of paint details that I did add just to give her a little bit more life. Now I did start painting in a lot of the straps, like the ones on her hip and some of the ones on her back. But then I did notice that I actually missed some. But since I am kind of pressed for time, I said, I'll just go back and hit them later. She even has like some straps on her feet that I painted in. And then we'll get into the sheath. Now the sheath was just one solid color. I did add gold and silver. Looks really good. Now I wanted to cover the back of the sheath, and I used this old cape that I have that's like really thin, but the color actually matched. But after I was done with this process, I kind of thought I might have been able to do it a little bit like to make it look a little bit cleaner with epoxy sculpt. So I might rip this off and then redo it, but this is just to give you an idea of, that you can cover that sheath so that you don't see the sword when it's inside, but the sword still does fit inside there. But I covered it with that plastic and then painted it up. But when it is on her back, you can't really, it's just, it fills it in, but it's not too noticeable. or too predominant. But when you do look at it, it has now the painted details in there, so I'm happy with it for now. If I do ever change it, I'll just go ahead and redo it. But I did also paint her sword. Her sword was also missing a lot of detail. Added the grips, added a little bit of silver, and then even the little stars on there should actually be red. So I painted those in red, and then that slips right into her sheath. Or you can actually put it into her hand and have her ready for battle. Any way you want to pose her. But actually, I'm really happy with her. I'm really excited to get her up on the shelf with the rest of her wave. I have Jon Stewart and Black Adam. And then I'm happy to move on to the next one, which will be actually the Batman from this wave. And then we'll still have to do the Frost King. But try and get back on track and get into some of the figures that I have on hold until I could get I've actually gotten a lot of stuff in the mail, and I picked up some stuff in the wild, and also I redid my shelves, so now I have a little bit more room, but it's still a lot of, I have so many figures that are in box that I don't even think with the shelves that I added I'm gonna have enough room for everything. Now my movie figures usually go up here on top, but I think I'm gonna have to expand that as well. But anyways, she's a pretty beautiful figure to add to my collection. Really happy with the repaints. You guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.